uh, I've got a confession to make here about this book here, which is, well, as you could read from the title, it's Mistborn Book 1, The Final Empire. And the confession is, I've never read a Brandon Sanderson book before. I've heard so much good about his books. I mean, he's compared to Tolkien in many cases, so I'm really, really interested, especially the Mistborn series. It's always, like, appealed to me, especially this cover, but we'll talk about it in a second. So, I finally gotten around to get the first book, and I'm getting to reading. And I'm now going to try and answer the question. Should you actually read Brandon Sanderson's The Final Empire? Or is it a bit overrated? Anyways, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. Well, okay, as of recording this, I have, but imagine I have, so let's keep the suspense going. Woo! So let's talk about this cover. This is, of course, not the original cover, but I absolutely adore this cover. I think the minimalist-esque design here of just going with newly just gray toned and then with the blue highlights, which, it just works. It pops. And the silver border they have around here, it's just, it's so good, and you get some depth going, you get some intrigue. I mean, this is a book that you could use just for display. So absolutely 100% this book sells for me. It tells me nothing about the story though. I have no clue what's going on. The only reason I know the blue is mist is because I read the book. Otherwise I would have no idea. I would imagine it was like a spell or the wind or something else. There's nothing in it that says it's mist. But what I do enjoy though is the city in the background. I think the city here looks amazing. It's intriguing. What's the big spiky tower in the background? And and who's the character? It's more of an aesthetically pleasing cover than it's a cover that says what this book is going to be about. And that's fine. Just to me, maybe make it a bit more obvious it was missed, but on the other hand, I think it's a beautiful cover. What they could have done though, and it's not exactly the cover, but the mist goes here. Actually, sorry, you can see. The mist goes here, and then it goes up here. And then it wraps around again. Why not have it wrap? Who thought of that? That's horrible. Oh yeah, I forgot to remove the sticker. But, oh, that's so bad. Have the mist go through. How difficult can it be? Anyways, let's move on to part 1. Just to conclude this, yes, I do like the cover. Given this is not a book that is by itself separated into parts like some books are, this first section here covers about the first 150-ish pages, so a good chunk of the book. And that's mainly because all of this is just set up and explaining the world and the plot. And the first thing I want to discuss is the book genre. And I know genre is pretty much just a label. Like calling something fantasy is like saying anything non-fiction is fantasy. Like, it doesn't tell me anything, but I do want to talk about it because it is kind of relevant. I started reading this book with the mindset that I was going to read an epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings or something like that. But so far, it's a heist book. The main plot is a heist. I did not expect that. That's awesome. I mean, epic fantasy mixed with Ocean's 11? Boom, that's amazing. So yeah, I'm starting out great here. And let's move on to the next great thing, the magic system. It's awesome. I love allomancy. I think it's unique and I think it's fun. Now, let's tone it down a bit because I'm a mechanical engineer, so I know a little bit about material science. I'm not going to say I'm a material science specialist, but I do know some. So when Sanderson started talking about all the different metals, and the obvious one is of course iron and steel as metals with different properties, I have to admit to you, I was a little off put because steel is just about 4%, like it's just iron with 4% carbon, give or take some, but 4%. And I was a little worried that Sanderson just completely misused this concept that not all what we call metals is just a pure metal, it's an alloy. But it's actually explained in universe that the users, the Mistborns, the Mists and Misters and so on, is aware of it being alloys, and that it can be a problem for Mistings and Mistborns if they aren't careful. And I can't explain how happy that made me. That just, oh, that's so good. I know it's just a small thing, and he could just have explained it with being, well, my world steel is a metal you can find in the ground. No, he actually went and go and explained, like, in real world we make steel with 4% carbon, 4.2% carbon, and so on. I'll put up a carbon steel material science diagram so you can see it. It kind of looks like Surprise Pikachu. I don't know. It's kind of funny. And it just makes me so happy that he did that. And it just also explains the pairing idea, because now you can pair metal with its alloy, like tin and I think he pairs it with like bronze? No, that's copper. Sorry, pewter. Sorry. So, and then also the effect. So like iron lets you pull things, while it's then counterpoint steel allows you to push, or it's vice versa. You know, one pulls, the other pushes. So the final thing I want to talk about for this section is the characters. I'm not going to talk about all the members of the crew, because there's going to be a lot, and not all of them have gotten a chance to shine. And you know, quickly on all of them, I kind of like all of them. They are a bit feely one-notey, because you know they're kind of defined by their misting ability. But I think that's fine. They're side characters. They're not supposed to be that important. They're just supposed to be part of the team. So we have two main characters. We have Vin and we have Kelsier, and I think both is great. I love how you can feel how broken Kelsier actually is, and yet he's still able to keep it together. Also, the trust he's able to show his team, and his willingness to just teach Vin out of the blue. I think that's great, especially when you think about Vin being that she's the polar opposite. How she grew up on the street and doesn't trust anyone. They are a great, you know, polar opposite of each other, and I don't think that's a unique thing, but it doesn't, everything you write doesn't have to be unique. You just have to do something with it. So what Sanderson's doing with it is just giving Vin, who's like 16, 17-year-old, a father figure, and it works really, really well. And it also allows Sanderson to present some fun scenarios for the two, where he doesn't have to spend pages explaining how Vin would react, because if we know how Kelsier would react, we know Vin is going to react the opposite way, and it also allows for them to rub off each other and give character growth. Yeah, so far, first 150 pages, it's good stuff. Let's get to part 2, where Vin is learning her abilities and is getting quite good at it. But to speed it up, because I mean, I can spend hours talking about all details in the book, but that's not going to be fun for you. I've now set up my base thoughts on the book. So now I'm just going to dive into a few select parts of them that I think is going to show off some parts of the book that's going to be interesting, but it's also going to not spoil too much. So here in this part here, Vin is now learning her abilities and is getting good at it. And Kelsier sent her to learn from the other members, and I love that. I love how it's, even though Kelsier is a Mistborn like she is, I love that he explains it as in they only know one thing, but the one thing they know, they are experts in, and I think that's great. And it also shows that just because you don't know all 10 medals or 12 medals or how many medals there is, I think they officially say it's 10, and then there's this mystical 11th medal. I think by showing that just because you don't know, you're not able to use them all, you're not worthless. You can be really, really specialized, and that's great. What did I write? I just wrote ball really weird. I misspelled it 2 ways. Okay, so I'll get to that. So Vin learning, all the difference, like how to soothe the group, how to manipulate the feelings consciously is so good. And that's just one of the cases. Now, talking of things, let's talk about character growth, because I mentioned before how Sanderson has set himself up for having some growth. So Vin is going to this ball, and it was really, really fun. but also were a little disappointed. I would have loved if we spent more time at the ball. But on the other hand, it of course didn't overstate welcome, and we still got great character development for Win, at least at the beginning. And I think meeting Elend here was pretty good. It's interesting, it's fun, but generally just the entire ball, like how awkward she is, and learning that they want to dance with her, be like, wait, dancing, and then being of course be like, no, relax, let's bring it back, let's just say no and you'll dance with them next time, we'll sit you alone so everybody knows you don't have a partner, but you'll deny all dances for excusing you're nervous, all that stuff. It's good, it's exactly what I want. I just want more, so let's hopefully get more in the next part. We got more ball. We got more Win socializing at the balls and generally spending time with the other nobles, and it's great, it's fun. I love how she's getting more comfortable. I love how she realizes with the dancing that all the young new nobles at the balls are equally as unsure-footed as her. It's just great. And I especially like the conflicting images Sanderson then brings up, because Vin sees all these nobles as being really like down to earth, nice people, just wanting to have fun, be friends and all that. And then we talk with people like Doxon and Kelsier, and it's all about how the nobles are terrible and how they will rape and kill people and without even thinking about it. And it's so good that we get to see this polar opposite, and it really you can feel it pulls Win the wrong way, because she really wants to believe that the nobles are good people at heart. But she also really wants to believe that Doxon and Kelsier are not lying to her, because they haven't so far. And the fact that she's torn between what someone's telling her and what she sees shows great character growth, because in the beginning she would not have. And that's good. That's really, really good. We're getting somewhere great. This is to me the best part of the book. I love how Win tried to save Elend. It's just, I call him Elend with a hard D, but he might just be Ellen. I don't know. I just think Elend sounds more fantasy-esque, but so let's get back to the saving. So the fighting and the usage of the magic system is so good. I think it's such a cool fighting system, especially the Mistborn versus Mistborn, and also the fact that one of the Mistborns trying to save Elend is his ex-fiance. I think so good, because we knew she was a Misting, but showing she was actually a Mistborn, like, so here there's a hierarchy going, that Mistings are here and Mistborns are up here in hierarchy. They are just that special, but you're either Misting or Mistborn. You're not halfway through them. Either you got one or you got them all. So, but that's just cool. However, with the combat is greatly utilitarian. It's great actual fighting. It hits all those spots. But the problem when fighting between Mistborns is it just kind of devolves into who has the most of the 10th metal, the Adium. I don't know. That's a little boring, because it's a metal that allows you to see the future, or at least a potential future. So it just brings down to who can confuse the other one with showing the other person the potential future, and since you burn it really fast, I don't know. It's a good idea. It's a really, really good idea. I just think, the fact that you have 9 other metals that are really unique and interesting in the fighting, it kind of neglects how good they are. I know you can do some cool stuff, but I don't know. I don't really think the Adium is that good. I mean, I can't think of a way to write in a metal that allows you to see potential future, or potential split seconds ahead in time, without it only being used for combat, basically. But given we have it, it's pretty good. What feels really good is the payoff later when Kelsier's then fighting the Inquisitor. So even though Vin isn't part of the battle, Elend thinks she is, because she might be trapped, because the guy who plays her, that pretends to be her uncle, is trapped, so Elend thinks Vin might be trapped. I don't remember, Valette I think she was called to Elend, but that doesn't matter. And given Vin or Valette saved his life, he doesn't know, we're just saying. It shows great character that Elend tries so hard to save Vin, even ignoring all the danger, and he's genuinely scared that she's being trapped and killed. Now, that situation, it's Kelsier versus one of these Inquisitors, which I'm not going to go into too much depth about, but they are cool. They're so cool and mystical, and the fight is awesome. I'm not going to go too much in depth, but you cannot change the fact that that fight is awesome. It's epic. If you read this book, you will love that fight. Now, let's slow it down, because for every chapter, there's this little passage. It has nothing to do with the main story. At least it seems like it. Here's a page with it, and as you can see, it's written in cursive, and it's right before a chapter starts. So what this is it's then like a piece of a book they're currently translating from the Lord Ruler. And what you don't notice in the beginning, because it just really does make sense in the beginning, it just feels like flavor or world building. But as you get through this book, what you realize is the way the Lord Ruler is describing his way to get to power really is a great parallel and mirror to how Kelsier is trying to do it. Not like, oh, they're going through the same path, at least not physically, but the thematic, the moral, the ethical part is. That's great writing, because if you know where the Lord Ruler is going to end up in this book, I'm not going to spoil that. You can kind of guess it, but I'm not going to spoil it. You can also guess where Kelsier is going. That's great writing, because you don't figure it out right away unless you follow this review. Then I'm sorry, but it won't ruin anything for you. It's still epic. So yeah, it's a great way to show trajectory of two characters. It's also a great way to almost foreshadow what's gonna happen. Yeah, anyways, let's get to the final part of the book. This is part 5, and it's gonna be the rest of the book, including the epilogue. My camera is dying, so let's see if we got power for this. So, the final part, starting out with one of the most badass scenes in the book. It's so epic how Vin enters the palace and just completely in control, and even being able to take on the Inquisitors using what we learned how to defeat them and using what she's learned. I'm trying not to spoil the entire ending of the book because they're absolutely amazing, but I do want to talk about the plan from Kelsier to make himself a martyr and thereby giving people hope and something to fight for, and that's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. He has thought of every little step, and it just makes him such a great character. Well, a greater character. Now, final thing I want to talk about is kind of related to the epilogue, and that's kind of my theories I have for the future of the book, and that is the atium or whatever is used to prevent a catastrophe that the Lord Ruler was talking about, while also creating the mist that's everywhere. And this kind of relates to my second, because throughout the book we learn how when they use their abilities quite heavily, the mist swirls around them, as in reacting to it. So I think if you're Mistborn, you can use the mist in some ways. Which I have no idea how, like maybe it can enhance your abilities or whatever, but I think the mist can enhance the Mistborn's abilities, and I think the Lord Ruler needed the atium to prevent some catastrophe of grand level, but there's only one way to find out if I'm correct, and that is to read the rest of the series. Let's get back to the question I ask in every review. Should you read this book? Yes, you should read this book. Sanderson has written an amazing epic fantasy book, and what really surprised me was the base story is a heist story. It works really well. It is more, as it goes on, it gets less heisty and more fantasy, but it works. It's so good. There is a few things I want to criticize, and one thing I already touched upon, that's the 10th metal, so I'm not going to go too much in depth. I just think it's too powerful. And the other thing is his writing. You can tell this is an early Sanderson book because he feels like he has to keep reminding you that who the characters are. Like I think 10 times we're told who the members of the crew are and how they're related to the other people. And it's kind of sad because all the characters are different in their own way. They're easy to distinguish from each other. So it just kind of ruins the experience hearing 10 times or more like who is who. But if you can look past that, because I assume he's gonna get better at it, If you can look past that, I think the book is amazing and definitely worth a read. I cannot wait to move on in this series. Now let's get to the hint.
She studied her face in the mirror. The rude awakening had taken its toll. Her waist-long hair, the color of spun gold, didn't have its usual sheen. Her jade green eyes looked faded. Her luscious red lips a touch dry. Even the glow of her creamy peach skin had dulled. But still a princess, she thought. Her father couldn't see she was special, but her mother had. "You're too beautiful for this world, Sophie," she said with her last breath. Her mother had gone somewhere better, and now so would she. Tonight, she would be taken into the woods. Tonight, she would begin a new life. Tonight, she would live out her fairy tale. And now, she needed to look the part. To begin, she rubbed fish eggs into her skin, which smelled of dirty feet but warded off spots. Then she massaged in pumpkin puree, rinsed with goat's milk, and soaked her face in a mask of melon and turtle egg yolk. As she waited for the mask to dry, Sophie flipped through a storybook and sipped on cucumber juice to keep her skin dewy soft. She skipped to her favorite part of the story, where the wicked hag is rolled down a hill in a nail-spiked barrel until all that remains is her bracelet made of little boys' bones. Gazing at the gruesome bracelet, Sophie felt her thoughts drift to cucumbers. Suppose there were no cucumbers in the woods? Suppose all the princesses had depleted the supplies? No cucumbers! She'd shrivel. She'd wither. Dried melon flakes fell to the page. She turned to the mirror and saw her brow creased in worry. First we're in sleep, and now wrinkles? At this rate she'd be a hag by afternoon. She relaxed her face and banished thoughts of vegetables. As for the rest of Sophie's beauty routine, it could fill a dozen storybooks. Suffice it to say, it included goose feathers, pickled potatoes, horse hooves, cream of cashews, and a vial of cow's blood. 2 hours of rigorous grooming later, she stepped from the house in a breezy pink dress, sparkling glass heels, and hair in an impeccable braid. She had one last day before the schoolmaster's arrival, and planned to use each and every minute to remind him why she, and not Belle, or Tabitha, or Sabrina, or any other imposter, should be kidnapped.